The discovery at the bottom of the ocean was entirely accidental, a consequence of humanity's unyielding curiosity. Dr. Lucinda Harris, a marine archaeologist, had been investigating ancient shipwrecks for years, but what she stumbled upon that fateful day was no mere relic of history. Deep within a submerged cavern, hidden beneath layers of sediment and forgotten by time, she found an anomaly, an artifact unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The artifact, an intricate metallic sphere etched with unknown symbols, pulsed with a faint rhythmic glow. Dr. Harris's team was at first hesitant, unsure of how to approach the strange object, but curiosity got the better of them. When Dr. Harris triggered its activation sequence, the ocean around them seemed to shift. A blinding flash of light erupted from the sphere, disorienting everyone in the vicinity. It was a surge of energy, so intense that it set off seismic tremors across the globe, reverberating through the atmosphere and stretching across the stars. Simultaneously, every human on Earth felt something stir within themselves, a rush of power, a surge of energy unlike anything they had ever known. At first, it was subtle, the burst of strength in the limbs, an inexplicable sharpness in their minds. But as the days passed, humans across the world began to experience more dramatic transformations. Some could manipulate objects with their minds, while others could move with the speed of a predator. The most unusual cases, however, involved people who could manipulate the very elements around them. Fire, water, air, and earth responded to their will. The scientific community scrambled to understand what had occurred. Dr. Harris, who had become the central figure in the crisis, was thrust into the spotlight. With governments, corporations, and military factions desperate to harness the newfound powers, tensions rose. Not everyone was ready to face this new reality. But it wasn't long before the first signs of danger arrived. Thousands of miles away, in deep space, an alien fleet, the Xalorith, detected the surge of energy that had blasted across the cosmos. The Xalorith were known for their ruthless conquests, dominating weaker species with advanced technology and superior firepower. They had studied humanity, observing from afar for centuries, but they had always dismissed Earth as inconsequential. Now, however, they had to reconsider. A small tactical strike force of Xalorith warriors was dispatched to Earth with a singular mission: neutralize the threat before it could grow. Their methods were swift and brutal. A series of surprise attacks targeted major cities, and in each of these locations, the Xalorith demonstrated their superiority. Until, in a startling twist, humanity fought back. Humans, inexperienced but determined, used their newfound abilities to resist. A young man named Ethan Riley, who had discovered his ability to control energy, single-handedly stopped an alien invasion in a coastal city, redirecting an alien plasma blast and sending it back toward their ship. News of this miraculous defense spread like wildfire. Humanity, once thought weak and fragile, had fought back, only to realize this was just the beginning. The Xalorith were only the first in a long line of challenges, and humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer so certain. As the alien ships retreated, the world watched in awe and terror. Humanity's powers were only beginning to unfold, and already the fate of Earth had taken a drastic turn. The struggle for survival was now just beginning. The galaxy, it seemed, had taken notice. The days following the first alien encounter were filled with a mix of fear and hope. People around the world were still processing what had happened, but one thing was clear: humanity had proven that it could defend itself. The Xalorith had underestimated the resolve of Earth's inhabitants. Despite the overwhelming power they had witnessed, however, many still questioned if it was enough. The Xalorith would not stop their assault after one defeat. They were relentless conquerors, and Earth had merely poked the hornet's nest. Behind the scenes, Earth's governments were scrambling to form a united defense. Military forces were mobilized, but so were the scientists and engineers, working feverishly to develop new technology to complement humanity's newfound abilities. Dr. Lucinda Harris, now seen as one of Earth's foremost experts on the alien artifact, was brought in to help guide the global effort. What had happened in the ocean, she knew, was no accident. Something had triggered humanity's potential. But what exactly was it? And more importantly, who had sent it? In the midst of the chaos, another far darker truth was emerging. Earth was not the only planet to have received this kind of transformation. Across the galaxy, other species were beginning to unlock similar powers, their destinies now tied to the same ancient force that had awakened humanity. The Xalorith, for all their military superiority, were not the only ones taking note. The power shift was happening across the stars. Just as human leaders began to organize their defenses, the Xalorith launched their next wave. This time, they came in full force, with a fleet of warships that loomed like shadows across the sky. The first wave was only a taste. Now they sought to finish what they had started. The planet trembled as alien ships appeared in the atmosphere, ready to lay waste to human cities and crush any resistance. The battle that ensued was unlike anything Earth had ever experienced. For the first time, humanity's powers were put to the ultimate test. The Xalorith fleet descended from the skies, their sleek ships cutting through the clouds like predators closing in on their prey. The Earthbound forces fought valiantly, but it was clear, human weapons were not enough to stop the advanced Xalorith technology. But just as all seemed lost, the unexpected happened. Ethan Riley, the young man who had repelled the first Xalorith attack with his energy manipulation powers, once again rose to the occasion. This time, however, he wasn't alone. More humans, like him, had discovered their abilities, some now able to levitate, others able to control the very earth beneath their feet. Together, they stood against the alien invaders, coordinating strikes that were far more precise and effective than anyone anticipated. The tide of the battle shifted rapidly as humanity, once a species with no knowledge of its own potential, began to use their powers with increasing mastery. General Ava Rook, a decorated military leader who had personally seen the devastation that Xalorith had caused, led humanity's charge with a tactical genius that matched the speed of her newfound powers. Under her leadership, human forces began launching devastating counterattacks, using guerrilla tactics combined with their unique abilities to exploit the weaknesses in the Xalorith ships. And yet, despite the fierce resistance, the Xalorith were not about to give up. They had one final weapon, an experimental device capable of destabilizing Earth's core. If activated, it would turn the planet into a ticking time bomb, destroying everything in its path. The clock was ticking. Earth's survival was no longer guaranteed. Cliffhanger. As Ethan and General Rook raced to intercept the device in a final desperate mission, the Xalorith unleashed their ultimate weapon. Would humanity's newfound powers be enough to stop the impending catastrophe? Or would Earth become a lost world, consumed by alien forces once more? The race against time had never been more urgent. Ethan Riley, along with General Ava Rook and a crack team of military specialists, navigated through the ruins of the Xalorith stronghold, their mission clear: disable the device capable of detonating Earth's core. The alien weapon was hidden deep within a fortress-like structure, surrounded by the best of the Xalorith forces. The team fought tooth and nail through the alien defenses, each member using their powers to complement one another. Ethan's energy blasts, Rook's psychic enhancement of tactical strategies, and the rest of the team's enhanced agility and brute strength. Yet despite their combined might, the Xalorith never let up, and the ticking of the device became louder with every passing second. Just as they reached the core of the enemy installation, a deep, guttural voice echoed through the command center. The Xalorith General Valzar had arrived. His towering frame and technologically augmented body radiated an aura of menace. Behind him, a row of elite soldiers flanked him, their weapons humming with deadly power. Valzar's eyes gleamed with contempt as he watched the humans, confident that his forces would overwhelm them. "We knew you would come," Valzar sneered, "but you are too late. Your planet is doomed. The Xalorith have waited centuries to finish what we started. There is no escape. But before the battle could escalate further, an unexpected and terrifying sound filled the air. A sharp, bone-rattling hum, like a rift in reality itself. The Xalorith soldiers stiffened, and Valzar's expression faltered. Something had disrupted their system, and that something was not human. A shadow moved swiftly across the battlefield. Another alien species, one unlike anything seen before. They were sleek, ethereal figures, their forms glowing with a soft, luminous light. They moved with an eerie silence, each step calculated and deliberate. The humans watched in awe as they effortlessly disarmed and incapacitated the Xalorith soldiers with swift precision. These beings were not hostile, and they seemed to have no interest in the humans' immediate confrontation. Instead, they turned their attention to the device that threatened Earth's core, manipulating it with a grace that was both terrifying and beautiful. The Xalorith general's eyes widened in disbelief. "The Vastari, why are you interfering?" he growled, trying to maintain his composure. The leader of the Vastari, a being named Ilara, stepped forward, her voice calm yet full of authority. "The destruction of Earth would disrupt the balance of the cosmos," she said, her tone carrying an otherworldly resonance. "You were too arrogant to see it, Xalorith. Earth is not merely a planet to be conquered. It is a fulcrum upon which the fate of the universe tilts." The Xalorith general scoffed, but Ilara paid him no mind. With a wave of her hand, the device shuddered and began to deactivate, the countdown slowing to a halt. The Vastari had stopped the impending catastrophe. But at a price. The Xalorith would not let this trespass go unpunished. A brutal battle between the two alien factions erupted, leaving the humans to stare in awe and confusion. General Rook's mind raced. "Who are these Vastari?" she whispered to Ethan, her eyes never leaving the intense clash unfolding before them. Ilara, sensing their uncertainty, turned her attention to the humans. "We have watched humanity for millennia. We were once like you, reckless, divided, and unaware of our true potential. But we evolved, as you must. We have no interest in ruling you, but we cannot let the Xalorith destroy what you are becoming. You have potential, a power that the galaxy has never seen." Ethan felt a sense of awe wash over him as he realized what Ilara was saying. Humanity was on the cusp of something far greater than they had imagined. They were not just a species of survivors. They were the key to something far grander. But to understand their role in the cosmic order, they needed allies like the Vastari. The battle raged on, but the humans now had a choice: accept the help of these mysterious beings and learn to control their powers, or risk everything in a war they might not be ready for. Cliffhanger. As the Xalorith forces retreated, defeated for now, Ilara's eyes turned to General Rook with a cryptic message. "The Galactic Council will soon turn its eyes to Earth. When they do, your true test will begin. Humanity is no longer just a child of this world. You are a force that the universe cannot ignore." The humans had just entered the galaxy's stage, but the question remained: could they survive the trials to come? The sudden appearance of the Vastari, and their swift intervention in deactivating the Xalorith weapon, had left the Earth in a precarious position. Though the immediate threat to the planet was over, humanity now faced an even greater challenge: how to navigate the delicate balance of newfound power and the growing tensions between factions both within and beyond Earth. In the aftermath of the battle, General Ava Rook stood before the Global Leadership Council, her face set with a grim determination. The victory over the Xalorith had been hard-won, but it had only made one thing clear: humanity was no longer an isolated species. Their powers, now fully awakened, had not only caught the attention of the Xalorith, but also that of the Galactic Council, an ancient alliance of interstellar civilizations that ruled vast stretches of the cosmos. The Vastari had warned of their coming, but the Council's power was far more complex and enigmatic than anything humanity had encountered before. In the weeks that followed, the world fell into a tense silence, marked by an uneasy calm. Governments, militaries, and scientific bodies scrambled to gain control over the new powers their citizens had discovered. The United Nations, now a shadow of its former self, found itself in disarray, torn between those who wanted to use the new abilities to advance humanity's interests and those who feared the consequences of such unchecked power. Military factions began to form, each believing that their approach was the right one. Some, led by influential generals and warlords, sought to dominate the Xalrith remnants and any other alien threat that might appear on Earth's doorstep. Others, more cautious, pushed for diplomacy, believing that humanity's survival depended on forming alliances with other intergalactic species, including the Vastari. This faction feared that embracing a militaristic stance would only escalate hostilities with the Galactic Council, a far more dangerous adversary. Dr. Lucinda Harris, now an advisor to the global scientific community, worked tirelessly to understand the origins of humanity's new powers. She and her team had begun deciphering the alien artifacts and the mysterious symbols that had activated humanity's latent abilities. But the deeper they dug, the more unsettling the implications became. The ancient relics were not just remnants of a forgotten civilization. They were a key to an ancient, cosmic struggle. Humanity had been awakened at the wrong moment, and the consequences of their newfound powers could ripple across the fabric of the universe itself. The stakes were growing higher by the day. A breakthrough came when Vastari emissaries revealed the true scale of the threat. The Galactic Council was not just a group of peaceful races. It was a powerful conglomerate of species who had long sought to control the flow of energy across the universe. The Council had been watching humanity's rise with growing concern. If the human race continued to develop at this accelerated rate, they would become a threat to the established order of the galaxy, a force that could upset the balance that had existed for eons. Despite the warnings, humanity was not unified. The political and military factions continued to vie for dominance. Some saw the Vastari's alliance as an opportunity to learn from them, to harness the knowledge that could make Earth an intergalactic power. Others, led by militaristic leaders, saw the Galactic Council as a looming threat that had to be confronted head-on. At the heart of the power struggle stood General Rook. Having once been a unifying force, she now found herself pulled in different directions. Her loyalties were tested, and each decision carried the weight of humanity's future. With the Vastari offering their assistance, and the Xalrith remnants still lurking in the shadows, the pressure to act decisively was immense. Rook, now more aware than ever of the fragile nature of their situation, called a secret meeting with the leaders of the most powerful military factions. It was time to plan for the next phase of humanity's survival, before the Galactic Council made its move. The time for unity was running out, and the division among humans would either be their undoing or their greatest strength. As the first representatives of the Galactic Council began arriving in orbit, the world held its breath. Would humanity, torn by internal conflicts, rise to meet the challenges of a vast and hostile universe, or would they fall to the weight of their own ambition? The tension in the air was palpable as the first representatives of the Galactic Council entered Earth's orbit. Their ships were colossal, more like city-sized structures than anything humans had ever seen. They shimmered with advanced technology that far surpassed anything on Earth, and the sheer presence of these ships was enough to send a chill down the spine of anyone who witnessed their arrival. The Galactic Council had been watching Earth for centuries, its ancient eyes focused on the rapidly changing species below. Now, humanity had made a dangerous move in unlocking powers they were not yet prepared for, and the Council was coming to see whether Earth's rise was a threat to the stability of the universe or an opportunity for alliance. General Ava Rook, having taken charge of Earth's defense and diplomatic efforts, stood in front of a global summit of world leaders, scientists, and military commanders. The room was filled with anxious murmurs as they awaited the Council's emissaries. Rook had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but deep down, she knew the arrival of the Council would mark the beginning of a much greater struggle. The emissaries arrived in a grand procession. First, a fleet of smaller ships landed, their designs sleek and organic, unlike anything human engineers could conceive. They were followed by the council representatives, beings whose features defied human understanding. Some were humanoid, others looked entirely alien with tentacles, crystalline structures, or luminous forms. Yet there was one thing all had in common: an air of supreme authority that commanded immediate respect. Leading them was an imposing figure, a tall being with translucent skin and an ethereal glow. Her voice was both melodic and unnervingly powerful as she spoke, echoing through the hall as if her words resonated directly in the minds of all who listened. She was Lady Velithra, one of the highest-ranking members of the council, and her mere presence made it clear that Earth was under scrutiny. "You have awakened something far greater than you realize," Lady Velithra said, her eyes locking onto General Rook. "Your species has touched the power of the cosmos, and you are now at a crossroads. You have the potential to be a great ally, or a destructive force." The weight of her words hung heavily in the air, and the room fell silent. There was no mistaking the gravity of the situation. Lady Velithra continued, her gaze sweeping across the assembly, each leader and military commander feeling the depth of her scrutiny. "The Galactic Council has observed your kind for eons, waiting for this moment. You have unlocked abilities that even the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy have not dared to wield. These abilities carry the risk of destabilizing the very fabric of the universe itself. We have seen this happen before, and we will not allow it to happen again." A hushed murmur spread through the crowd. General Rook stood tall, speaking firmly in response. "We understand the gravity of the situation, Lady Velithra. But humanity did not ask for these powers. They were thrust upon us. We only want to protect our world and ensure our survival. We seek your guidance, not domination." Lady Velithra studied Rook for a long moment, as if weighing her every word. "You may believe your intentions are noble, but the universe does not care for noble intentions. Power is a dangerous thing, General Rook. It corrupts, it blinds, and it destroys. Your species must learn to control what you have unlocked. We will not allow your unchecked rise to destabilize the balance we have carefully maintained." There was a pause before Rook spoke again, her voice unwavering. "What do you propose then? Do you intend to strip us of these abilities, or will you allow us to forge our own path?" Lady Velithra's expression softened slightly, though her words remained stern. "We will not take your powers from you, General, but you must prove that humanity is ready for the responsibility that comes with them. The Galactic Council will offer you a choice. You may join the Council as a member, aligning your species with the greater galactic order, or you will be forced to remain on the periphery, a species under constant scrutiny. The choice is yours." The room was filled with tension as humanity's fate hung in the balance. Rook's mind raced as she considered the implications of the Council's offer. Joining the Galactic Council could provide Earth with knowledge, protection, and resources beyond anything imaginable. But it would also mean submitting to a greater galactic authority, one that might limit humanity's freedom and autonomy. The other leaders began to speak up, debating the offer and its potential consequences. Some argued for joining the Council, seeing it as the only way to secure humanity's future. Others, emboldened by the powers they had gained, were determined to chart their own course, free from external control. As the debate raged on, Rook's thoughts were consumed by the pressing question: could humanity survive as a free species, or would they be better off under the protection and guidance of the Galactic Council? The decision would shape the future of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy. The debate in the summit hall raged on for hours. The leaders of Earth were divided, torn between the promises of power and protection offered by the Galactic Council and the desire for humanity to retain its newfound independence. General Rook stood at the center of it all, her mind a battlefield of its own. She understood the stakes better than anyone. Earth was on the brink of becoming a pivotal player in the galaxy, but with that position came unimaginable responsibility. "I know what you all fear," Rook finally said, her voice cutting through the cacophony of voices. The Galactic Council represents power, immense power, but we must ask ourselves, do we want to be subjects, or do we want to be partners? Do we wish to hide behind the shield of another, or do we stand tall and face whatever comes our way, knowing that we have the strength to shape our own destiny? Her words caused a momentary silence. Some of the world leaders shifted uneasily, the weight of the decision settling on their shoulders. Others nodded in agreement, inspired by her confidence. However, there were still factions that believed the Council's guidance was the only way forward. Those who had tasted the bitterness of conflict, both with the Xalorith and the chaos that followed, were less certain. Would humanity's pride lead them to ruin? Lady Velithra's gaze never wavered, her ethereal form still standing at the forefront, radiating an air of ancient authority. She waited for the humans to decide, but her expression remained inscrutable. She had seen species come and go, civilizations rise and fall. Earth was just another moment in time, another test of power and will. How would they choose? The choice is yours, Lady Velithra repeated, her tone as calm as it was dispassionate. Join the Galactic Council, and we will ensure your place among the stars. Or remain apart, and you will be forced to contend with the consequences of your own actions, alone, without the guidance of those who have seen civilizations destroy themselves time and time again. General Rook turned to her fellow leaders. The weight of the moment pressed down on them all. As the world leaders looked to each other for guidance, a murmur spread throughout the room. It was clear that their choices were not merely about political power. They were about the survival of the human race in a galaxy far beyond their comprehension. The question was not only whether humanity could defend itself, but whether it was capable of controlling its own destiny. In the end, it was Dr. Lucinda Harris who spoke up. The scientist who had dedicated her life to understanding the mysterious forces that had awakened humanity's potential, stood with a quiet but resolute expression. Joining the Galactic Council may be our only chance to truly understand what we've become, she said. But it cannot be done out of fear. It must be done with the understanding that we are not giving up our autonomy. We are not becoming pawns in a galactic game. We are choosing to be part of something larger, yes, but we must always remember that we are still human. Our strength lies not in our powers, but in our capacity for free will. Her words struck a chord with the assembly. There were nods of agreement, and a ripple of realization passed through the room. The council had made its offer, but it was clear now that humanity's strength would come from unity. Unity of purpose, not of submission. Rook stepped forward, taking the floor once again. We will accept your offer, Lady Velithra, but not as subjects. We will join the Galactic Council, but we will remain the masters of our own fate. Earth will never become a pawn, nor will we sacrifice what makes us human. Lady Velithra's eyes gleamed with a flicker of something akin to approval, though her expression remained stoic. Very well. You have made your decision. The Galactic Council will offer you our protection and knowledge. But remember, your journey has only just begun. The galaxy is vast, and there are those who will test your resolve. With that, she turned and motioned for her delegates to begin preparing the official agreement. The representatives of Earth were left to contemplate the future, a future that, for the first time, seemed to stretch far beyond the confines of their home planet. In the weeks that followed, Earth's integration into the Galactic Council began in earnest. Diplomatic channels were established, and humanity's first emissaries were sent to meet with the Council's various species. Yet, while the promise of cooperation hung in the air, the true challenges had only just begun. Humanity had taken its first steps into the galactic arena, but the galaxy was not a place of peace. There were enemies far greater than the Xalorith, forces that operated in the shadows, waiting for any sign of weakness. Would humanity, now on the brink of its greatest evolution, rise to the occasion? Or would the temptations of unchecked power prove too much for them to handle? Only time would tell. As humanity's integration into the Galactic Council began, the world was filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The first ambassadors were sent to meet with the various factions, representing Earth's commitment to its newfound place among the stars. Diplomatic missions were carefully planned, each one designed to establish alliances and build trust with the countless civilizations that made up the Council. Earth's position was tenuous. They were new to the galactic stage, and their untested powers made other species both curious and wary. But even as Earth worked to forge diplomatic ties, dark forces stirred in the shadows. That Exalarith, though beaten and broken, were not gone. The remnants of their forces were scattered across the galaxy, biding their time. And among the most secretive and dangerous groups within the Galactic Council, there were those who viewed humanity's rise as a threat rather than an opportunity. General Rook, now officially recognized as Earth's primary representative within the Council, had hoped that the worst of the conflict was behind them. The Exalarith had been defeated, and the Vasteri had pledged to guide humanity toward a peaceful future. Yet, despite the seemingly promising path ahead, Rook felt the growing unease of something unseen, something that lingered beneath the surface of galactic politics. During one of her meetings with Lady Velithra, the Galactic Council emissary, Rook couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the situation than she had been told. The Vasteri had been helpful, but their motives remained unclear. Velithra had made it clear that humanity's acceptance into the Council came with stipulations, conditions that on the surface appeared beneficial, but that Rook feared might restrict Earth's freedom in subtle, insidious ways. It is one thing to join the Galactic Council, Rook had remarked cautiously during their meeting, but it is another to allow ourselves to be manipulated into a position we can't escape from. You speak of protection, but at what cost? Lady Velithra's gaze softened, but her voice remained as commanding as ever. The galaxy is a dangerous place, General. Your people must learn to adapt. The Council does not seek to control you, but it will guide you. Those who stand in the way of progress will be dealt with accordingly. The Exalarith were not the only ones watching your rise. There are others who view your species as a disruption. Rook's stomach tightened at the words. Disruption was a term that had a sinister ring to it. It was a term often used to describe a species that was perceived as a threat to the status quo. Earth, in its newly awakened state, was that threat. As Rook's mind churned over the warning, a covert message arrived from one of Earth's newly established spy networks. It was a communication from an unknown source, encrypted and delivered through a back channel. An anonymous message claiming that there was a faction within the Galactic Council that had already decided to destroy humanity, fearing the potential of Earth's rapidly evolving powers. Rook immediately convened a small, trusted group of advisors, including Dr. Lucinda Harris and a few of her closest military allies. Together, they decoded the message and learned of a growing conspiracy. Some members of the Council were quietly preparing to neutralize Earth before it could become a true power. The message was clear. There were forces within the Galactic Council that saw humanity not as an ally, but as a danger that needed to be eliminated. But who could they trust? The Vasteri, who had guided them this far, had warned that other factions would not hesitate to act if humanity became too powerful. Had the Vasteri known of the conspiracy and kept it hidden? Were they truly allies, or simply another piece in a much larger, far more complex game? The answer was elusive, and as General Rook and her advisors strategized, the galaxy seemed to close in on them. The Exalarith were one thing, but the internal threats lurking within the Galactic Council were far more insidious. If Earth was to survive, they would need to fight not just for survival, but for the right to remain free, to control their own future. And yet, with every move they made, the danger of betrayal loomed larger. The very allies who had helped them before might be the ones who would turn against them. As Rook prepared for the next steps, the question remained, could humanity unite against the forces that sought to control them, or would they be torn apart by the weight of galactic intrigue? The truth of the conspiracy would soon come to light, but the cost of uncovering it might be far higher than anyone imagined. As the truth of the conspiracy within the Galactic Council began to surface, General Ava Rook understood that Earth's survival no longer rested solely on diplomacy. The galaxy, with all its vastness and complexity, had shown its darker side, and humanity's place within it was precarious. Betrayal, once a distant fear, had now become an undeniable reality. The question was no longer whether humanity could control its own destiny. It was whether they could protect it from forces that sought to destroy them. Rook called a private meeting with her closest advisors, including Dr. Lucinda Harris and a trusted group of military leaders. The conspiracy they had uncovered was far more expansive than they had imagined. Certain factions within the Galactic Council, including several powerful species who feared humanity's rise, had already begun laying the groundwork for humanity's downfall. These factions believed that Earth's unprecedented powers would disrupt the balance of the galaxy, and they were willing to go to great lengths to prevent that from happening. "We've been blind to the true scope of the threat," Rook admitted, her voice heavy with the burden of responsibility. "The Xalorith were only the beginning. There are others in the Council who view us as a destabilizing force. They will not stop until Earth is neutralized." Dr. Harris, who had always been a voice of reason in their chaotic times, spoke up. "We can't fight a war on all fronts. If we confront the Galactic Council directly, we risk alienating the very allies who still support us, if there are any left. But we can't ignore the growing danger either." Rook looked out the window of the meeting room, her mind racing through every possibility. The decision weighed heavily on her. She knew that diplomacy alone would not suffice. Humanity had been thrust into a cosmic game with stakes higher than anything they could have imagined. They had to take action, but what action could ensure their survival? "We need to strike before they strike us," Rook said, her voice resolute. "If we expose this conspiracy to the Galactic Council, we could turn the tide in our favor. But we must do it carefully. We need undeniable proof, and we need the support of those who are not part of the conspiracy. We can't afford another misstep." The plan was risky. Rook knew that revealing the conspiracy could lead to a civil war within the Galactic Council, one that could tear apart any remaining hope of peaceful cooperation. But if they remained passive, Earth would be crushed under the weight of galactic politics. It was a gamble, but humanity had no other choice. The first step in the plan was to reach out to the few trustworthy members of the Galactic Council, those who had been allies since the beginning. The Vastari, while enigmatic, had shown themselves to be true to their word. Though Rook remained wary of their full motives, their knowledge of the galaxy and the Council's inner workings was invaluable. She reached out to them, requesting their aid in gathering evidence and exposing the truth. "The Vastari are our best hope," Rook said to Harris. "If we can get them on our side, if they truly want to help, then we'll have a chance to unravel this conspiracy before it consumes us." The Vastari responded swiftly. Lady Velithra, though cryptic in her manner, agreed to assist, albeit with a sense of caution. "We have watched your species with interest," she told Rook. "We will aid you, but you must understand that the Galactic Council is not a simple entity. Its factions are not all alike, and many are far more dangerous than you realize. Tread carefully, General. The galaxy is not kind to those who disrupt the order." With the Vastari's help, Rook and her team gathered the evidence they needed to expose the conspiracy within the Galactic Council. They uncovered covert communications, secret meetings, and plans to assassinate key leaders on Earth. The conspiracy was not just a plot to weaken humanity. It was a calculated move to wipe out humanity's influence in the galaxy once and for all. With the evidence in hand, Rook initiated the next phase of her plan, exposing the conspiracy to the Galactic Council itself. The truth had to be broadcast across the galaxy, to every corner of the Council, so that no one could deny the growing threat. The day arrived when the message was ready. Rook stood in the command center, watching as the data was transmitted to every Council representative. The truth would no longer be hidden. Earth was not a destabilizing force. Humanity was the victim of a plot that sought to quash their freedom and potential. It was time for the galaxy to decide whether it would stand with humanity or let them fall. As the transmission went out, Rook knew that Earth had crossed a point of no return. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the right to exist as an independent free species in a galaxy that was far more complicated and dangerous than they could have ever imagined. In the end, the only thing that mattered was whether the galaxy would recognize humanity's right to choose its own path, or whether it would let a select few decide humanity's fate for them.